So starting over here on the passenger side, you can see a slightly different color to this door attachment here. I actually got that off of a different door that I bought I think it was in Middle Tennessee somewhere. You can see that some of the underneath of the vehicle here is starting to get a little bit worn. I think some of this stuff was maybe here when you were there. Basically the bottom of the interior is still in pretty good shape. You can see the inner bits of the console here. I actually rebuilt the air conditioner a couple years ago, so the air conditioner turns really nice. It's pretty good. Seats are still in pretty good condition here. Still have occasionally you have a little thing where it's starting to tear, kind of like that you get with a car that's 40 years old. A couple things about the back seats. So my kids have ridden back here pretty well. There's a couple of things about it that are starting to wear out now. So like this seat belt here disintegrated a couple years ago, or a couple months ago. So the plastic in it's just kind of worn out. This one is also starting to go. You can see that the plastic here is sort of on the edge. So there's only one working female receptor on the seat belt back here, but other than that, the seats work fine. And again, the back's in pretty great shape here. This is the one door that the locks don't work on. Oh, and by the way, so the rear seat here, I have cut out some, I guess like a mat that you would use underneath a mattress in your house. So I've cut out that mat and shaped it to the back here to make it a little bit easier to sit on. But the inside of this whole rear seat is some kind of foam that was native to Mercedes, and that foam is just completely disintegrated now. It actually had disintegrated right when I bought the car. I pulled out the back seat to make sure there was nothing under it, and all this fiberglass sort of shavings fell out of it. So it's been a rough ride in the back seat until I replaced that bit back there. So this is the only door lock that doesn't work automatically anymore. The pneumatic bit, I've had this door apart a couple times down here. The pneumatic bit that belongs to it just doesn't, like the door will lock sometimes, but it never unlocks. And so one of those buffers is just gone and doesn't work anymore. But obviously the doors still close really well. I still have the air quality receipt from this year to show that we passed everything for the vehicle. Can't remember, does this have the mileage on it? I know this is when I had to tell what the mileage was. My last guess for the mileage, since the mileage odometer doesn't work anymore, my last guess for the mileage was 480,000 miles. This the rear antenna here, this disintegrated when I was living in Tennessee, the little bit around it here, and I've never replaced it since it never rains in Arizona. But if it's going to rain for you, you'll probably want to get a rubber grommet or something to put around that to make sure that it behaves nicely. You can see here, by the way, this is the passenger rear seat. So you can see here where when the car was stolen in 2003, might have been in 2002, I can't remember. But when the car was stolen, this is where they busted out this back window and then reached around and unlocked that lock. So there's still a little bit of noticeable damage here. And in the back, if you sit here in the front seat, you can see where the rear of the vehicle is starting to pull down some from where the interior is just shrinking down. So unfortunately, I have a child who had a pencil one day in the car, so he poked a couple holes up there. Sorry about that. I advise anybody sitting in that seat, if they just don't look up, they'll never see it. But generally the back seat's in pretty good condition. This armrest still comes out just fine, but it's tricky to get back up if you're a child. So there's been more than one discussion in the back seat at high volume about who pulled out the car. Who pulled out that bit of it. So you can see here the odometer hasn't worked since probably 2008. It was at about 444 or 344,000 miles then, and I've put about 15,000 miles on it a year since then. So that's where we've accounted for my best guess that it's about 480,000 miles. The lock is different from what you remember. So you still have to turn it to 2 to be able to turn the glow plugs on here. But the difference is that when the car was stolen, they completely busted out that lock and they ripped out a bunch of the wiring underneath it, and so they couldn't save the lock on it at all. And what that means is that you can actually pull the key out while you're driving, which is a good party trick that you can show to somebody. You can see we're still warming up on the glow plug here. Turns over nicely. I think right now I've got the air on. Just the regular vents on right now. You can see this little crack in the dashboard. This was made by the guys that stole the car. I guess they were really mad. You can still see where they knocked up a little bit on the inside here with the screwdriver trying to get the thing running. But generally, like, the radio still works. You can listen to public radio. It comes in really nicely. Actually, it won't come in right now because I pushed the antenna down. So you turn the air conditioner on. The air conditioner still runs cold. Flip this over this way. One thing about the glove box, I have to keep the glove box locked. Now you can see where, when the car was stolen, somebody forced it open right here, and so what that means is that the glove box doesn't close anymore unless you lock it. There's probably a way to replace this part right here and get that fixed, but I just never did it. So the air's turning out now. It's coming out cool. One thing about it is that this little switch probably needs to be replaced. My guys told me that it was a little expensive to do, and so I just mess with it until I finally get it to work. But it turns really nice on number 2, but it's kind of in between 1 and 2. If you wanted to turn it on number 3, then you have to really play with it until it finally turns on. And I think there's also an issue with the pneumatic tube that's behind here. I think it probably needs to either be replaced, or one of the lines on it needs to be replaced, because now the door locks don't work unless the car is running. So you should be able to show the door lock going up and down here now. After the reservoir fills up. It's kind of not filled up yet. I'll get the engine up a little bit more. But you can see the lock's kind of moving over there a little bit, but it's not going to open and unlock and lock very well until this reservoir gets all the way filled up in here, filled up in the back. But other than that, the gauges all still work. I don't think the clock's ever shown the right time for me, so I don't pay much attention to it. It's right twice a day. That's good enough. I had the idle adjuster redone a couple of times because it had a little piece of plastic in the link somewhere, but this still turns nicely. One thing for sure, if you can find the replacement part for it, I looked a couple years ago and couldn't find it, but the dome light has cracked, and I tried to repair it a couple times, but it just gets grounded up here and blows the fuse every time, so I gave up on trying to do that. Alright. And let's see, so I just redid some bits of the transmission a couple years ago, redid all the linkages through here, so all that's basically fine. I'm getting cold now because it's a little bit cool weather, so I'm going to switch the AC off and turn the car off again. All this stuff works just like you would expect it to. You can actually hear now there's a little bit of a whine, so that's where somewhere there's one of the pneumatic tubes that's got a crack in it or something, and I've just never tracked that down. But I think if I had a couple hours with the shop and I had all the tools that did the pressurization, I could find it and replace it. I think it's one of the bladders underneath the hood does that. Like I said, I drove this car every day for 9 years now, so it's got a little bit of issues here with the sit down in the car when it's 110 degrees outside, and it just doesn't treat you very well. If you have a replacement for these plastic things on the side, you can adjust your seat a little more easily, but I typically just do it. Oh, and there's you probably remember from when you had this car, there was a little hole starting to form under here, and that is still there. Unfortunately, steel doesn't grow back. But again, I haven't been too worried about it as a Arizonan, since it doesn't rain that much, and usually when it does rain, I don't drive the car either. Yeah, I think it's one of these bladders under here inside of this splitter, I think, is blown. That might be part of the problem. But the engine still runs good, runs real nice. I haven't actually changed the oil that much since I never get it up to high speed, and I think I probably only change the oil about once a year now. But everything seems fine with that. The radiator should probably be replaced at some point. It's been okay in Arizona in the heat because I typically drive it on the move. But I think if you're going to be idling in traffic and it's going to be in the mid 90s for a while, the car has a chance of overheating. So you'll probably want to replace that. I think it's just, I never replaced it since I had the car, so it's just been calcifying up for 40 years. Oh, one thing for sure, that other door that I bought, I put this mirror, I took this mirror off that other door. It was from a 78, but I never replaced the glass on it. I still have the little piece that attaches in here, but I never replaced the glass. One of those things I thought maybe I'd get around to at some point. And my wife reminded me that the stripping on this window is obviously kind of going. Since it doesn't rain much here, I haven't noticed it recently, but I'm sure that this is going to have some leakage problems if it starts to rain on a regular basis. But every time I looked at replacing this window, they said it was going to be about $2,000 because the stuff just comes stuck to it, so you can't get a window or any weather stripping off of an old car. So you might be able to make a new version of it somehow, but I've never figured out how to do it in a cost-effective way. And still got a couple little rust issues here under the bottom. Again, I haven't really worried about that since I live in Arizona, and it only rains a couple days a year, and even when it does, I might be able to get out of having to drive the car. And in the rear, you can see my golf club collection from the last time I went to play golf, but I tried to clean this out some. Still have the glove that you gave me with the car. Nice memory there. You can see this is the tire that I took off the front of the vehicle, and I put the full-size spare back on. The front right tire is the one I replaced because that's the one that was kind of looking the worst. So the front left tire looks kind of like that. That tire that I took off there, the front left tire kind of looks like that. And I got my mechanics to push out a list of all of the issues relating to the car. I replaced this reservoir back here back in 2002 or maybe 2001 because it had failed. It's possible that that's the reason that the locks aren't working very well anymore, that it's just that reservoir, but I don't have the tools to figure that out, so I haven't done it. And so that's it. You can see the vehicle in all its glory here. I'm going to post this video for you so you can see it later. If you have any questions, just give me a call. It's been a while since I've run the block heater, by the way. See the little plug hanging off the block heater here. I think probably the last time I plugged it in was in 2003, maybe 2004. When I went back to visit, I might have plugged it in once. But it always worked well for me, but obviously you'll want to check the connectivity there to make sure that you don't get a short and blow your fuse. Oh, and you can also see one thing I forgot to show here, a piece of the windshield. You actually can't see it if you're sitting in the driver's seat of the car, so I don't know how long that's been there. My son pointed it out to me one day that I had a crack in my window, and I told him he was crazy because I couldn't see it. So it doesn't bother me at all. And again, replacing that window is kind of a pain, so I just haven't done it. But I love this car. This has been a really great car for me. It's the thing that I've used the most in my life to this point. And I'm sad to see it go, but I'm glad that you're going to have it. And of course, you know what a great car it can be and what a great car it was for you. And we still got the emblem on there. No matter how many times I parked it in a place and wondered if I come back if the emblem would still be there, it was always there. So looking forward to you having it and enjoying it again. And I'll be, like I said, I'll be sad to see it go.